It is better to be feared than loved. If you cannot be both, your mind is a throne, and every interaction is a battlefield where unseen predators circle, waiting for a lapse in vigilance. Manipulative people do not announce themselves. They hide behind charm, politeness, and familiarity, observing weaknesses with the patience of a predator stalking its prey. Every smile they offer, every compliment, is a test. You must see these gestures for what they are. Probes to measure your reactions, to gauge the boundaries of your control. Stand firm. Observe the currents beneath ordinary conversations. Detect the subtle shifts in tone that hint at an agenda. Awareness is your first and most effective weapon. When you maintain presence, you deny them the advantage of surprise. When they sense hesitation, they push harder, testing the limits of patience and composure. Your responsibility is to anticipate, not react. The predator among us does not retreat at polite resistance. It advances with calculated charm, masking intent with smiles and empathy. Recognize this pattern, and you disrupt the narrative they seek to impose. Blind trust is a vulnerability. Every exchange is a potential arena where influence is contested. Manipulative individuals rely on the assumption that you will not scrutinize motives, that you will allow emotions to dictate your actions. They exploit predictability, your routines, your attachments, your social loyalties. Each lapse becomes a foothold from which they expand control. To defend your throne, you must scrutinize not only what is said, but what is implied. Measure actions against words. Compare consistency over time. Trust emerges not from instinct alone, but from disciplined observation and verified integrity. Small discrepancies, repeated over days or weeks, reveal intent. Address them with calm authority. Never panic. If a colleague constantly reframes your suggestions to serve their own agenda, you do not confront them with anger. You assert clarity. State your position with calm precision. Redirect the discussion to facts, and maintain your boundaries without engaging in emotional escalation. Weak. I feel like you are trying to twist my words. Strong. I recognize the shift in focus. Let's return to the core objective. Manipulators often operate within your circle. Familiarity is their camouflage. They rely on access to your networks, your trust, and your willingness to give the benefit of the doubt. Recognize that proximity is not an endorsement. Observe patterns in relationships. Who consistently redirects credit, who subtly undermines confidence, who leverages guilt or flattery to influence decisions. Early detection allows decisive action. Document interactions, maintain consistent boundaries, and assert control over your attention and energy. Calm detachment is your shield. Measured responses are your sword. In one meeting, when a peer attempted to sway the group through subtle insinuation, the room followed your lead because you anchored the discussion in objective facts, refusing to be baited into reactive disagreement. The effect is not confrontation but containment, showing that influence is a skill to be managed, not surrendered. Your throne is not a symbol. It is the locus of your decision-making authority. Protect it as you would any strategic fortress. Each interaction carries stakes, and the cost of complacency is subtle but significant. Diminished influence, eroded respect, and incremental loss of autonomy. Treat observation as reconnaissance, silence as reconnaissance, and discipline as armor. Act with measured precision. Respond to attempts at manipulation, not with emotional retaliation, but with strategic clarity. Calibrate reactions to expose tactics without engaging in needless conflict. By doing so, you cultivate an environment where manipulation loses its power and the predator finds no entry point. Repeat this mantra daily. I see through falsehoods, I act with precision, and I rule my mind as my throne. Every day you internalize this discipline, The shadows lose their capacity to unsettle you. You become untouchable not by force but by mastery, presence, and unwavering attention to the patterns that govern human behavior. Every conversation is now a controlled engagement. Every interaction a demonstration of sovereignty over your mind. The throne is yours. Guard it with vigilance and act decisively when the rules of engagement demand it. Awareness, discipline, and calm authority are your eternal allies. It is better to be feared than loved. If you cannot be both, your mind is a fortress, a throne room where your authority is absolute, yet it is constantly under siege by subtle intruders. Manipulative people are tacticians of influence, seeking to plant seeds of doubt, guilt, and confusion, aiming to occupy the territory of your thoughts without raising alarms. Your first duty is to claim sovereignty over this internal kingdom. Observe each thought as a general on your battlefield. Discipline them, marshal them, and ensure they serve your strategy rather than the agenda of another. Fortify your mental patterns like ramparts surrounding a citadel. Every habit of reflection, every practice of discernment reinforces walls against intrusion. Recognize that manipulation thrives where attention is divided and judgment is compromised. Guard against this by cultivating clarity and consistency in your thinking. Each moment of self-awareness strengthens the perimeter of your control. Detect intrusions early. Manipulators rarely strike openly. They test boundaries with subtle gestures, questions, or seemingly innocent statements designed to provoke a reaction. Identify when someone attempts to shift your perspective unfairly or induce guilt for decisions that serve your interests. Awareness is your armor. It allows you to intercept attempts at influence before they take root. Observe patterns over time rather than isolated incidents. A colleague repeatedly reframing your proposals to align with their agenda is not mere coincidence, it is an attempted occupation. Address it decisively with calm authority, redirect the discussion to objectives, reaffirm your position, and maintain composure. Weak. I feel like my ideas are being ignored. Strong. Let's focus on the agreed objectives and ensure contributions remain aligned. By asserting boundaries clearly and calmly, you deny manipulative tactics any leverage. Internal sovereignty is the cornerstone of protection. Rule yourself before anyone else can rule your perception. Emotional responses are natural, but unchecked reactions leave you vulnerable to influence. Practice restraint and deliberate decision-making as daily drills in self-command. Your mental throne is maintained through disciplined reflection, evaluating not only external events but also your responses. Cultivate habits that reinforce autonomy. Journaling to track manipulative patterns, questioning motives without cynicism, and measuring outcomes against principles rather than impulses. In a recent team discussion, when a peer attempted to divert credit, you acknowledged the contribution objectively while reaffirming the collective goal, demonstrating control without confrontation. Each act of measured response signals mastery and fortifies your inner realm. Guard your attention, manage your reactions, and treat every interaction as a reconnaissance mission. Your thoughts are soldiers, your focus, the commander. Allocate resources wisely. Avoid surrendering the field to external pressures. By fortifying your mental territory, detecting intrusions early, and exercising unwavering internal sovereignty, you render manipulation ineffective. Every decision becomes a demonstration of authority, every conversation a controlled engagement, and every challenge an opportunity to reinforce mastery. Stand vigilant, disciplined, and deliberate. Repeat the mantra daily: I rule my mind as my throne, and none may breach it. In doing so, you transform your internal kingdom into an unassailable fortress, impervious to the subtle strategies of even the most skilled manipulators. Awareness, control, and strategic discipline are your perpetual allies, ensuring that the seat of power within you remains unconquered. Each morning is a battlefield, and the first movements dictate the entire campaign. Manipulative people thrive on reactive minds, preying on hesitation, indecision, and scattered focus. The moment you rise, your energy is a strategic resource. How you allocate it determines whether you command the day or surrender it to external agendas. Ritualize vigilance immediately. Begin with clarity, deliberate thought, and measured focus. Simple practices, a moment of reflection, structured planning, or mindful breathing. Act as reconnaissance, scanning for potential incursions into your mental territory. By starting deliberately, you fortify defenses against subtle provocations that would otherwise disrupt composure and autonomy. Each mental exercise is a drill for your internal army, training soldiers to resist surprise attacks and emotional manipulation. Do not allow distraction or impulse to dictate terms. Set your agenda with precision and authority. Energy is currency in the early hours. Manipulators feed on reactive responses, exploiting irritation, guilt, or anxiety to gain leverage. Observe how a rushed response, an unguarded emotional reaction, or immediate concession transfers control to others. By managing your focus, emotion, and intentions, you limit their capacity to influence outcomes. Protect your attention as if guarding a critical supply line. Prioritize tasks, establish clear boundaries, and engage with correspondence or social interactions only on your terms. Weak: I need to answer now or they will be upset. Strong: I will respond once I have assessed the situation fully. Each deliberate pause is a defensive maneuver, a shield against intrusion, and a step toward mastery of your day. First strike advantage is the ultimate safeguard. Early mastery of your mind ensures manipulative tactics fail before they begin. When you assert control over initial thoughts, actions, and decisions, you set a tempo that others must follow rather than dictate. Begin with intention, execute with calm, and extend composure to interactions. For instance, when a colleague attempted to corner you into agreeing with a misleading proposal, you acknowledged the concern, outlined your reasoning, and steered the conversation back to objectives without conceding control. This micro-example illustrates disciplined influence and preserves sovereignty over your decisions. By consistently applying this principle, your mornings become fortified campaigns and your mind an unyielding fortress. Guard energy, ritualize clarity, and take decisive initiative. Repeat the mantra, I command the dawn, and none may breach my focus. Each day begins on your terms, and manipulators meet resistance before they reach the field of engagement. Silence is a battlefield where every word is a soldier, and the quietest pause can wield more power than an army of voices. Manipulative people rush to fill gaps, to shape perception, and to impose their agenda before you assert control. When you embrace stillness, you transform from prey into predator, observing the terrain and reading the intentions of those around you. Pause and assess. Note tone, hesitation, and body language. Watch how subtle gestures betray urgency, uncertainty, or hidden motives. Each second of quiet magnifies clarity, turning ordinary conversation into reconnaissance that reveals the strategies of others. By refusing to react immediately, you strip manipulative tactics of their potency, forcing opponents to reveal their positions and vulnerabilities without realizing it. Control the narrative through measured silence. When you speak only with purpose, each word carries weight and authority. The manipulator's attempt to dominate discourse falters when they realize the conversation is no longer theirs to command. Weak: I guess you might be right. Strong: I will consider your point, and this is my position. Strategic quiet allows others to reveal their intentions and inconsistencies, providing intelligence you can act on deliberately. Every pause is a shield, a tactical maneuver that protects your psychological territory while projecting confidence and sovereignty. Do not let haste betray your position. Let silence speak louder than words ever could. Psychological armor forms in the space between statements. By mastering stillness, you deflect manipulation and respond with precision rather than reaction. Consider a meeting where a peer attempted to provoke agreement through guilt-laden remarks. You listened, noted the subtle pressures, and replied calmly, aligning your response with your objectives rather than theirs. This micro-example illustrates the power of patience and observation. Silence is not weakness. It is strategy, a disciplined weapon that transforms the ordinary exchange into a controlled engagement. Use stillness to fortify boundaries, read intentions, and strike decisively when necessary. Hold your ground, observe the battlefield, and let others expose themselves. Repeat the mantra, I move in silence, and power follows my command. Each moment of restraint consolidates control, and manipulators are disarmed before they realize the fight has begun. Every connection has its levers, and manipulators thrive where strings remain uncut. In the theater of influence, leaving these chords intact is surrender. Spot the patterns first. Gaslighting distorts reality. Triangulation divides loyalty. Guilt-tripping coerces compliance. Diversion distracts from intentions. Charm masks motives. Selective honesty deceives. And silent sabotage undermines progress. Recognize each habit as a strategic vulnerability, a weak point in your defensive line, and treat it as such. Observe interactions dispassionately, noting which behaviors consistently attempt to sway your decisions or erode your confidence. Awareness alone is insufficient. Decisive action is required. Neutralize triggers by identifying emotional hooks before they take hold. Anger, guilt, or fear is often leveraged to bend perception and elicit compliance. Like a general dismantling a trap before the enemy can spring it. Remove your own susceptibility. A subtle recalibration of language or timing often disarms attempts at provocation. Weak, I shouldn't feel this way. Strong, I acknowledge my response and act deliberately. Through calm recognition, you convert emotional landmines into predictable variables. You choose when and how to respond, refusing to be weaponized by others' design. Sever subtle bonds. Methodically, withdrawal need not be dramatic. Even quiet detachment shifts power entirely to your control. Cease engagement where manipulation thrives. Reduce exposure to influence, and maintain composure to prevent retaliation. Consider a colleague who persistently diverted team credit through charm masking. You disengaged documented contributions and reallocated responsibilities without confrontation. The act preserved authority and removed leverage from the manipulator. This is ruthless elimination, executed with precision. Every decision to cut a cord fortifies your throne. Maintain clarity, act without hesitation, and let every severed tie consolidate sovereignty. Repeat the mantra, I control the strings, or they control nothing. Command is visible before a word is spoken. Presence alone signals authority. In the theater of manipulation, your exterior is the fortress that defines the battlefield. Confidence acts as armor. Stand tall, maintain deliberate eye contact, and let your tone resonate with certainty. Every gesture communicates untouchability. Hesitation betrays vulnerability. Like a sentinel on the walls, you must project unwavering control, ensuring no subtle probe can penetrate your defenses. Each decision, each movement must reflect mastery rather than reaction. The manipulator studies weaknesses, give them none. Your calm becomes a shield, your posture a deterrent, and your measured words the cannon fire that repels intrusions. Predictability is the trap you set for those who would test you. Disclose nothing prematurely, reveal no patterns, and allow the manipulator to chase illusions of comprehension. Let them expend effort deciphering your strategies while your course remains unbroken. Weak. I might consider this approach. Strong. This approach is final, deliberate, unassailable. Your unpredictability within disciplined bounds creates friction for the manipulator. They must operate on your terms. Let every unanticipated pause, every measured silence, deepen their uncertainty. This controlled chaos enforces respect without confrontation. They will learn that pursuit yields nothing, while observation costs them effort and patience. Controlled engagement dictates every interaction. Respond with precision, never with emotion. Let presence dominate the game. In a meeting where a colleague attempted diversionary tactics to discredit your proposal, you acknowledged the point calmly, redirected the discussion to facts, and secured alignment without conflict. Presence dictated authority, and composure neutralized manipulation. Each engagement should reinforce your unassailable strength, shaping perception through restraint and strategic articulation. Execute decisions visibly yet without reaction, letting influence emanate from poise rather than force. Project authority like a predator surveys its territory. Confident, deliberate, and aware of every potential threat. Repeat the mantra, "I am the immovable force, they bend to my presence." Action, without hesitation, is the only safeguard against repeated incursions. In the battlefield of manipulation, the mind must strike first, silently, decisively, and without doubt. Mental elimination is the prelude to control. Isolate each manipulative behavior in your thoughts. Disassemble the threads before they can weave into influence. Visualize the patterns: gaslighting, triangulation, diversion. Treat them as tactical positions on a map, noting vulnerabilities and strengths. Observation becomes your reconnaissance. Every interaction is a field report, every conversation, intelligence gathering. The manipulator's intentions are signals. Read them, interpret them, and neutralize their potential impact before they materialize in action. Disarm before reaction. Analyze every attempt to bait or provoke, identifying the emotional hooks they hope will ensnare you. Like a seasoned general anticipating an ambush, you deploy countermeasures mentally before stepping into the fray. Weak, reacting immediately to accusations. Strong, observing, noting, recalibrating responses for maximum strategic effect. Every pause is calculated, every acknowledgement measured. When a colleague attempted to subtly undermine a project, you noted the diversion, reframed the discussion toward measurable outcomes, and preserved authority without confrontation. Your foresight becomes a weapon. Calculated retaliation, when necessary, is surgical. Do not act on impulse. Strike with precision that the manipulator cannot foresee. Subtle adjustments, strategic refusals, or the quiet rerouting of influence ensure that your response asserts control without escalating conflict. Each move is chess, not brawl. Every decision is a silent, powerful declaration of sovereignty. Your internal assassin eliminates influence before it can gain a foothold, transforming mental clarity into real-world authority. Discipline amplifies your power. Patience ensures the manipulator never predicts your trajectory. Execute strategy with calm, measured force, and the battlefield aligns to your command. Repeat the mantra, "I strike unseen, yet my power is absolute." In the arena of influence, observation is your sharpest weapon. Like a predator circling its territory, you must watch without revealing intent, recording every nuance, every pattern, mirror and reflect their strategies. Note how manipulative individuals deploy distraction, charm, or pressure to achieve outcomes. Their actions are maps to the terrain of human behavior. Use these signals to anticipate moves before they materialize in broader contexts. Each encounter becomes intelligence, every conversation a reconnaissance mission. Translate the subtle cues into actionable insight, so when the manipulator acts, you are not reacting but executing pre-planned maneuvers that safeguard your position and advance your objectives. Convert weakness to strength. Each attempted manipulation is a lesson in resilience. When a colleague withheld information to provoke dependency, you recognized the gap and implemented more transparent communication practices. Learn from these moments. Build habits that reinforce your boundaries, decisiveness and clarity. Weak, internalizing offense and reacting emotionally. Strong, converting observation into habit, fortifying mental and practical defenses, turning threats into instruments of personal mastery. The predator thrives not by brute force alone, but by transforming risk into advantage, using intelligence to sharpen its instincts. Maintain your predatory edge. Vigilance is continuous. Scan, note, and reassess behaviors in all interactions, from boardrooms to casual exchanges. Each detail collected enhances your situational awareness, ensuring you operate with dominance and foresight. Subtle patterns reveal long-term strategies of influence. When a subordinate attempted to manipulate delegation, you observed calmly, redirected responsibilities efficiently, and reinforced authority without conflict. Observation does not cease. It becomes rhythm, second nature. Always anticipate, never yield surprise. Cultivate awareness so comprehensive that potential manipulations are rendered ineffective before they start. Your calculated vigilance transforms you into a commanding presence in every arena. Repeat the mantra, I see all, adapt and remain unshaken. Every move matters more than every emotion. Life is a chessboard, and you are both king and strategist, observing pawns, knights, and rooks as they maneuver, testing your boundaries and patience. Position over emotion. Safeguard your throne before satisfying immediate impulses. A manipulator will provoke, distract, or charm, but reacting impulsively surrenders control. Instead, survey the board, calculate distance, angles, and potential repercussions of each action. Preserve your influence by acting deliberately, not reactively. Like a general choosing where to fortify walls, prioritize moves that ensure long-term advantage over short-term relief. Anticipate tactics. Patterns emerge when manipulation repeats itself. Subtle flattery, calculated omissions, or pressure for compliance are recurring moves in social chess. Recognize them early. Label behaviors internally, noting sequences, triggers, and outcomes. When a coworker subtly attempts to pit colleagues against one another, respond with measured transparency, redirect conversations, and maintain clarity in responsibilities. Observation transforms uncertainty into strategic foresight. The board is not chaotic, it is a map. Every piece moves according to rules, and knowing those rules allows mastery without confrontation. Sacrifice strategically. Not every battle demands engagement. Some pawns can advance or retreat without endangering the king's position. Allow inconsequential skirmishes to unfold, reserving energy and resources for high-stakes opportunities. Weak, engaging in every conflict. Strong, discerning which skirmishes matter, letting minor attacks pass to strengthen your position elsewhere. In one scenario, a team member attempted minor manipulation over a trivial decision. You observed, adjusted future planning, and ignored the provocation without escalating tension. By preserving your resources, you maintain flexibility, momentum, and control. The chessboard is yours to navigate with intelligence, patience, and authority. Repeat the mantra, I move with foresight, not reaction. Discipline is the forge where the mind becomes impervious. Daily rituals are not trivial. They are armor against manipulation, a shield that grows heavier and stronger with consistent effort. Begin each day with mental drills. Journal intentions, fears, and potential scenarios. Meditate to sharpen awareness. Envision interactions where influence might be attempted, and rehearse calm, firm responses. Each rehearsal is a sword stroke, each reflection a fortification. Through repetition, foresight becomes instinct, and hesitation gives way to decisive action. The battlefield of daily life favors those who anticipate, plan, and reinforce mental strategies before conflict arrives. Reinforce boundaries with unwavering constancy. Every no must be spoken, felt, and practiced until it is immutable. This is your trench line, your defensive wall. Let colleagues, friends, or acquaintances test limits. Do not flinch. In one instance, a peer attempted to bypass your responsibilities with subtle pressure. You calmly restated priorities, maintained tone, and redirected focus, leaving the provocateur without leverage. Repetition of such practices transforms resistance into automatic behavior. The mind recognizes patterns, recognizes threats, and responds with clarity rather than reaction. Strong boundaries are not rigid for display, but resilient through repeated, intentional practice. Psychological immunity is forged over time. Consistent mental drills and boundary reinforcement create a mind that detects manipulation before it surfaces. Weak, reacting emotionally to pressure. Strong, preempting influence with calm, deliberate action. The throne of your autonomy is preserved because your fortifications are internal. Each day compounds strength, rendering manipulation ineffective almost by default. Your psyche becomes a citadel, impervious to tactics that once demanded attention. Stand firm, train relentlessly, reflect daily, and let every moment of practice transform awareness into instinct. Repeat the mantra, "My mind is steel, my will unbroken." The throne is not given, it is claimed through unwavering self-mastery. Every interaction, every decision, every moment of restraint builds armor against influence. Emotional detachment does not mean indifference. It is clarity, the lens through which you view every move without being ensnared. Recognize impulses, yet act only from purpose. In the battlefield of social dynamics, emotions are the easiest avenues for manipulation. Close them, and manipulators find nothing to exploit. Your calm becomes your weapon, your focus your shield. When pressure arises, respond from principle, not reaction. The microcosm of disagreement, the colleague who challenges your timeline, the partner who seeks leverage, becomes a proving ground. You listen, assess, and redirect with composure. Weak, reacting defensively. Strong, responding with measured authority. Influence without weakness is mastery in subtlety. Project strength through presence, tone, and decisiveness rather than overt force. Others comply not because they fear, but because they recognize competence and clarity. Let your actions set precedent. Let consistency communicate limits more effectively than words. In one negotiation, a peer attempted to bend terms in their favor. You acknowledged their point, reframed the discussion around shared goals, and achieved alignment without conceding authority. Strength that is quiet is often the most commanding. Weak, asserting dominance loudly. Strong, asserting control invisibly. Mastery lies in creating momentum that aligns others' actions with your objectives while leaving them unaware they are following. Legacy of sovereignty is the culmination of every disciplined choice. Your throne is not a position others grant, but a state you occupy through habitual excellence, foresight, and restraint. Guard it fiercely. Let your routines, principles, and responses become the standard of untouchability. Others may challenge, but the citadel you build within remains inviolable. Each day compounds advantage. Each victory, however small, fortifies your reign. Establish your policies, protect your priorities, and cultivate influence that outlasts transient chaos. Command your life as territory and let every interaction reinforce the boundary of sovereignty. Repeat, I am untouchable, my throne stands unshaken. The battlefield of influence is endless, but victory belongs to those who command themselves before confronting others. Imagine every interaction, every subtle attempt at manipulation as an opposing force advancing toward your throne. You do not charge blindly, you observe, anticipate, and fortify. Mental sovereignty is your citadel, ritual and discipline of the walls that repel intrusion. Awareness becomes your sentry, noticing the faintest maneuver of deception before it manifests. Strategic silence is your sword and shield, striking only when necessary, concealing intention while exposing the gaps in others' tactics. Each ritual, from morning reflection to deliberate journaling, compounds resilience. The final battle is never against another, but against the distraction, doubt, or impulse within you that would allow manipulation to take root. You train yourself to respond from principle, not reaction. Emotional detachment is not coldness, but clarity, a lens that makes external coercion irrelevant. Unified strategy merges every previous discipline into a single, coherent force. Awareness scans for threats. Ritual reinforces readiness. Presence communicates unassailable authority. When a colleague attempts to redirect a project for personal gain, you acknowledge their concern, steer the discussion toward shared objectives, and maintain command without confrontation. Weak, confrontation and defensiveness. Strong, alignment and control without yielding authority. Your mind becomes a chessboard, each piece positioned to anticipate, intercept, and neutralize influence before it reaches you. Patterns of manipulation falter because you operate from consistency and foresight. Others may attempt to exploit weakness, but you have none exposed. Every decision is deliberate, every action measured. Strength manifests invisibly. The world bows to the competent even when unaware they follow. Crowning transformation occurs when the battlefield no longer exists because your throne is internalized. Manipulation no longer threatens, it educates. Each attempt to control, deceive, or influence becomes data, a lesson in human strategy that refines your own mastery. Your life operates as a sovereign domain where tactics are studied, outcomes anticipated, and boundaries enforced. Influence radiates naturally, not through coercion, but through disciplined presence. Legacy is forged in the consistency of self-command and the visible calm that projects invulnerability. Every interaction reinforces the inviolability of your domain. Others' attempts to sway you dissolve before impact, leaving only insight into their own patterns. The manipulator's downfall is not their exposure, but your transcendence. You play the game only with yourself, mastering impulses, emotions, and judgment. Stand unshaken, project clarity, and consolidate every principle learned into a singular state of untouchable authority. Repeat, I control myself, all else bows to reason. Every interaction is a battlefield, and your mind is the throne upon which victory is claimed. Observe keenly, noting subtle shifts in tone, intention, and posture. Boundaries are not suggestions. They are the walls of your fortress, defining what enters and what is repelled. Discipline is the garrison that ensures consistency. Without it, the strongest walls crumble from internal neglect. Daily implementation is the march of preparation. Each moment of awareness, each pause before reaction, compounds into impervious mastery. When a colleague attempts to redirect conversation toward personal gain, you acknowledge their point calmly, steer the discussion to shared objectives, and maintain authority without yielding. Weak, confrontation and defensiveness. Strong, alignment and silent command. Your actions become predictable only in principle, not in weakness, and manipulators find no leverage. Command your presence, Let your decisions reflect strategy, not impulse. Repetition ingrains strength. Recite your mantra daily. I see deception, act with precision, and rule my mind as my throne. Let it anchor your awareness, remind you that sovereignty begins internally, and reinforce the psychological armor that shields against intrusion. The mind that rules itself requires no external validation. It recognizes influence but refuses coercion. Integrate observation, boundaries, and discipline into each task, each interaction, each challenge. Practice vigilance as instinct, not effort. Presence communicates authority. Consistency cements it. Manipulative tactics lose power when they encounter a resolute, self-governing mind. Your throne is both symbol and reality, built on clarity, foresight, and disciplined action. You do not chase control, you embody it. Mastery over manipulative forces begins with mastery over self. Stand firm, move deliberately, and let your sovereignty radiate silently, yet unmistakably. Repeat, internalize, and command. I see deception, act with precision, and rule my mind as my throne.